What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is the Scene Snob here, and I'm back again with another review. It is late. I literally just got out, and I just got home from seeing Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9, and the finale of the Skywalker saga that started so long ago. 42 years to be exact. In fact, that comes up as an Easter egg in the movie, which I thought was pretty cool. I like to do reviews like as soon as I see something. The reason being, I think it's more truthful. Like you're still riding the high, the excitement, or living the low of watching something that you didn't like. Now with that, when you set in, you start to think about it. I feel like you start to kind of compromise your feelings on what the movie was, or what more you wanted out of it. So with that being said, going into Star Wars, I saw and heard some negative things, and that was sad. I didn't want that, because especially the Star Wars franchise, every time I go in with trying to be as optimistic as I can, because to me, they've always been an optimistic set of movies, a franchise, I should say. And I love them. I mean, if I got the collectibles all over the place, as you can see. I got the tattooed on my arm. The Holy Trilogy tattooed on my arm. They've been some of my favorite movies of all time. I've been in every opening night since the special editions came out. So going to see these, going to see tonight's movie, I wanted to just keep remaining optimistic, and I wanted to come out and do a review right out of the gate, because I think that would be the most honest review. And the reason I say that is because sitting and thinking about it, and it's not that I haven't had time to think about things and I loved everything about it or I hated everything about it. I think it was just more along the lines of I want the excitement to still be there. I want to, my first reaction of coming out of it, because I think that's always the most important. Like when you go see a movie with somebody, or even just being in the communal theater group setting, and you come out and you hear people talking about it, and that first reaction, that reaction you walk out to and you talk with your friends about, or even talk with strangers, it's your most honest review of a movie. It's your critique or opinion or whatever. I truly believe that. And then we start to compromise and settle. And not saying that we're wrong, we can't change our minds, but I think the way a movie made you feel while you were watching it for the first time, and you walk out of it, and that feeling you have is the true feeling. That's just me. I just personally feel that way. I've always felt that way. If you guys disagree, I'm sorry, and I would love to hear your opinions. But with that being said, here's my spoiler review of Star Wars. If you haven't seen it, you may want to click out of this. I'm not going to get too in-depth with every nook and cranny spoiler. I just kind of want to go over things I really liked about it, things I didn't like about it, and overall what I felt about the movie. So with that being said, tune out now if you don't want to know anything about the movie, and then come back and watch it after you see the movie. But also give us a like and subscribe, and message us and let us know what you guys think. All right, so here we go. So, like any time I've seen it, once the scroll hits, once you get that Star Wars with that powerful music behind it right in the beginning, I've always gotten goosebumps, because it's iconic. It's an iconic thing, a cinematic thing. And this time I think was even more so, knowing that this is the last movie in the saga. Now, granted, we're going to get more Star Wars. We have Mandalorian. We're getting a season 2. We'll probably get more shows. And, we're going to get more movies, definitely. But this is the last in the Star Wars Skywalker saga. So, when this hit, it really, like, the goosebumps rolling down my back, and I kind of got like misty-eyed. Oh man, it was beautiful. So going on, basically the movie is, they find out Palpatine's alive. There's news that Palpatine is alive on a planet called Exegol, which is the Sith homeworld. And Kylo Ren is desperately seeking out these things called Wave Riders. They're like Sith devices to help you find the homeworld. And he finds one, goes, meets up the Emperor. The Emperor is alive. The Emperor is very much in a Hellraiser 2 situation. What I mean by that is he's like connected to this big device that's keeping him alive, keeping his life force alive. But he is alive, and he tells her, he tells Kylo, you got to kill the girl, and we'll become the most powerful, and you can have the final order, my fleet. And it's like an endless sea of Star Destroyers. It was beautiful to see. So, Kylo goes out, and then you get back to, you have Poe, you have Finn, Chewie, Rey, BB-8, everywhere, all the usual suspects. And they have a mission to go and find Wave Rider 2 to try and figure out how to get to Exegol to stop the Emperor, because that's their mission. That's the way to stop all of this, because they know what's going on. So long story short, it all kind of comes to a head. They have to get to the Death Star remains on Endor to do it. Lots of fights. This was the war to end all wars, it looked like. And I did like, they kept referring to the Rebel War as the Old War. So it was kind of cool. I'd hate to see what they call the Clone War. So with that, they go. Rey she gets into a battle with Kylo Ren at the end on the Death Star. It was very cool. Then she takes off. She goes back to that Achu planet where Luke was hiding out, and she decides, I'm just going to hide out, because she finds out that she is Palpatine's granddaughter. And his children, or his son or daughter, they never actually mentioned which one was his. They mentioned that her father and her mother, deliberately, because they were related to Palpatine, tried to be nobodies, not be recognized by anybody. It didn't work out so far, so they hid Rey on Jakku, and they wound up dying for it. So she goes into hiding. Luke comes back as Force Ghost, talks to her, tells her, you gotta go back. You have the power of the Jedi. So she goes back. Again, long story short, she goes back. She's going to Exegol to face the Emperor. After the battle she had with Kylo Ren, he connects with Han Solo. They talk. Ben is back on the light side. So, pretty cool. So, now he's going to Exegol. They send out, now all the resistance is going to Exegol to fight. So she gets there. Big battle with the Emperor. It's very cool. Well, she has a battle with the guards first, and it kind of mirrors with Ben Solo having a battle with the Knights of Ren. It was kind of cool how they did it. Leia had a lightsaber that she kind of gave up so she could be a mom, and Luke winds up giving it to Rey, so she has two, which comes into play later. So with that, you got a lot of cool things, and I want to go over the highlights individually. I don't want to tell it as part of the story. So, long story short, Resistance wins. Palpatine's dead. Ben Solo ends up dying, saving Rey with force healing. And then Rey takes up the name Skywalker, so she's now Rey Skywalker, and she ends up on Tatooine. So, that being said, let me kind of go over. So we get, of course, Palpatine alive. We get a very cool Falcon chase in the beginning, which is awesome. And it kind of led me into wanting to talk a little bit about Poe and Finn. I don't think they get enough credit of their friendship. I think their friendship is one of the best in the Star Wars series. On the level almost with Han and Chewie. If Han and Chewie's friendship wasn't as iconic, Finn and Poe would be right up there. We do get Lando. Lando comes back. He is now sort of like the old guard stepping in to sort of mentor these young girls. Um, so he steps in because, of course, we do lose Leia in this. So those are some things that I thought were. I mean, of course, we were going to lose Leia, and we understood. You know, Carrie Fisher passed away, and I did have a beautiful scene where she's laid out, and everybody's kind of paying their respects. Except one thing that kind of stood out for me that bothered me is that her daughter, her actual daughter, who's in the movie and played kind of a pivotal role in, especially the mutiny in Last Jedi, was nowhere to be found. I mean, I would have put her right up there. You know, I mean, I think that would have been a beautiful scene, but they didn't do that, and I wonder why. So they go to this festival. They mention that the festival happens every 42 years. Again, that's the Easter egg I was talking about earlier. I thought it was cool. That's where they meet up with Lando. He gives them some information. They take off. Chewie winds up, after a big speeder chase, and, you know, some other things happen. Chewie winds up getting captured. Very sad scene, you know, because it's Chewie. And at the end of it, Chewie's on a transport and he's flying off the island. And Rey puts her hand out and she is holding the transport. It is a cool Force scene. So, holding that transport, desperately trying not to have Rey leave. Not Rey, Chewie leave. So, and then Kylo comes out, and he is trying to let the transport leave. You know, he's using his Force capabilities, but she's getting so intense with it, and then boom, she blows it up with Force lightning. Didn't even know she could do it, and she wound up doing it. Devastating. I mean, Chewie's dead. She's got Force lightning. What does that tell you? I know what it told me at the time, so kind of let on, and then that will be confirmed later. She is, well, I think I said it earlier, but she is Palpatine's granddaughter. So she has the Force lightning, which is pretty cool. And she can also Force heal and do many other things. So that I thought was really cool. So I was tricked. I thought Chewie died. I didn't know what it was going into this, and they've killed off pretty much everybody else from the old guard. So I was like, is Chewie dead now? I mean, what do we do? You know, we're adding on more and more droids. Are we getting rid of Chewie now? Like that, I was, you know, that's sad. So it turns out, so C-3PO read this dagger that had the location of the wave rider, but he couldn't translate it. His programming would just not let him translate where this thing was, this hidden Sith code. So they had to do like a memory wipe reboot, and he came back, didn't know who any of them were. Now here's what bugged me. They were being a dick to C3, well, mostly Poe, but for the most part, they were all kind of being a little bit of a dick to C-3PO the entire time. And then he is like the MacGuffin to get them to where they need to go. Then he's the MacGuffin to get them to the MacGuffin. And the reason I say that is because he's the thing they didn't know that they needed to get them there to what they don't know they need. So, he's willing to wipe his memory for them. Let's do it. And of course, he's nervous because he's C-3PO. And so we have that, and then you get he stares at him, and he's like, you know, I'm just looking at my friends one last time, you know, before he gets rebooted and memory wiped, and it's heartbreaking. It's C-3PO. He has been around since day one of this series, and a pivotal role in all of it. So when we see that, it kind of made me angry that they took that turn to kind of treat him the way they did, because even Han would be short with him and get annoyed with him, but it seemed like they always cared about him. Everybody always cared about him. Like, it seemed like everybody always got short with him because, you know, granted he could be annoying, but they weren't mean to him. They were just kind of like, you know. This was just, you know, like, it was such we didn't know Chewie was alive yet. I'm sorry, no, we didn't at this point. No, Chewie was alive. So, but they played with our emotions with Chewie dying, and then you come back and you see this, and it's like, yeah, Poe's been kind of a dick to him, and Finn's been kind of a dick to him, and Rey has kind of been rolling her eyes at him, and now this guy's going to lose his memory. Somebody who's been around for 42 years, an iconic character. You know, now you know why I put those there. So, an iconic character, and there we are. We have these three just kind of treating him poorly, and then he wipes his memory for them. I don't know. That bugged me. That was one thing that really stood out and bugged me. So, we find out that, so when they get the memory wipe, he comes back, he tells them where it is. It's on the remains of the Death Star on Endor. So, they have to go back to Endor, which was cool. We get back to Endor. Well, they go and they save Chewie first because they find out that the Star Destroyer that's over the planet that they're on, where they're getting the memory wipe done, Chewie's on there. So they sneak on. It's very reminiscent of when Luke and Han and Chewie went to go and save Leia. And I thought it was cool. And you find out Hux is a spy. So he goes out pretty poorly, in my opinion. It was kind of weird to see. Like, yeah, he was like kind of a pivotal role for the past 3 movies too, and he was like second in command. And it seems like he was relegated to, all right, you're still a general, but keep your mouth shut. We don't want to talk to you. So, and then to see him just kind of get blasted and he's done was very weird. But he was the spy and he was helping them get away. So I know I'm jumping around, but I just want to kind of touch down on certain things. You do get a Rey versus Evil Rey scene, very reminiscent of Dagobah, when Luke is fighting Vader, and the mask blows up, and Luke sees himself in it, before he finds out that he's his son. It was very cool. And that was in the vault room of the Death Star. So then you get Rey versus Kylo on the Death Star. Again, I talked about this earlier. It was a very cool lightsaber scene. And it led to her getting away, really taking him out too. Like, she heals him, but she hits him with his own lightsaber, and it was cool. But that was because Leia died at that moment. Leia realized she had to die to save Kylo, to make him realize, like, she had to use all of her force strength to kind of bring him back from the brink. So she does that. Rey heals. I call him Ben at this point. Rey heals Ben, Kylo. Chewie, when they get back to the planet, you find out that Leia died. Again, it was heartbreaking because this iconic character is now dead. And you forget. You're like, oh man, it's so sad that Rey has to go through this. It's so sad that, Ben Solo has to go through this. And everybody in Poe. But Chewie, man, give this guy an Oscar nod. Like, it was just so hard to see him go through this heartbreak. That was kind of it. Like, yeah, Lando's still there, but like, out of the 4, the big 4, he's it. Chewie's it. Lando's always kind of an in and out character anyway, so he's now watched his best friend die. Then Luke dies. And now you have Leia, and Chewie just loses it. He just is done. He can't handle it. And it was just so sad to see. But, I wanted to mention that. And then you have Ben. Ben does talk to Han, which I thought was cool. The Final Order has Star Destroyers that actually have world-ending cannons on it. So, like, Death Star technology on the Star Destroyer now. And they blow up the planet where you have the memory wipe happened. C-3PO's memory wipe. One thing I do want to mention about that memory wipe is it says that he is restricted from speaking in the Sith language. What didn't make sense to me about that was he was built by Anakin. And what prevented him? If he could speak it, he could read it, or he could read it and understand it, why couldn't he translate it? What was blocking him from doing that? Why would Anakin, when he built him and then really never saw him again, well, in a capacity where he could do any work to him whatsoever, how did it get to a point where he couldn't translate it? Why would Anakin, even as a child, put that in? That didn't really make sense to me. So another cool thing is when Rey gets Leia's lightsaber, and they kind of do a flashback to Leia and Luke training when they were young, and then seeing her give it up to say, I'm going to be a mother, and this is going to go to somebody who deserves it one day. And Luke giving it to Rey. Then also Rey needing to get off the planet because she destroyed the TIE fighter she flew there. So, because she was done, she didn't want to go back. But she winds up using Luke's X-Wing, which was cool. Brought it back. Red 5's back, so that was awesome. Again, you had a cool fight with Ben versus the Knights. There was a really cool scene. It was very similar to DS9 during the Dominion War when they're leaving and then they run into the full Starfleet. All Starfleet is going to save DS9. And what happened was you have this small band of resistance fighters led by Poe and Finn going around, and they're trying to destroy these Star Destroyers with these world-ending cannons, and they're trying to stop them before they take off and can go destroy worlds. And they're outnumbered. And then you have, during the fight, the Emperor, he takes force power from Ben and Rey, and it brings him back to full strength. And you get this cool, immense scene of like him shooting force lightning into the sky, and it's hitting not all of the starships, all of the resistance starships. So he can control it in such a way, just blasting into the sky, and hit the ships that he wants to hit. So they all lose their power and they're falling out of the sky, and it's getting crazy, and they're already losing and people are dying. So, you have, but then they come back, they stop. Rey's able to stop Palpatine from doing that. They get their power back. They realize they're losing, and then and Poe's just kind of like staring on, like watching his friends die. Snap Wexley dies, a bunch of others, and it's like the end. There's nothing he can do. So he gets called by Lando, who's on the Millennium Falcon and with Chewie, and he's like, no, that's not it. And like he flies over a Star Destroyer, and there's just a wall of resistance fighters. And they even say it in it. It's like, it's not the resistance, it's just people with starships, and they're here to help. And you get some very cool returns. So it's led by Lando and Millennium Falcon with Chewie, and they all go and they attack. So now, but it's beautiful the way like Poe is just like flies over and you see this wall, and I thought it was very reminiscent of DS9, which I thought was cool. If you don't know that, sorry, but Star Trek reference in a Star Wars movie. So you do get to see Wedge. Wedge Antilles is there. He is part of that armada that's there to help, and it was very cool to see. So we get afterwards we get Rey defeats the Emperor, defeats the Sith. It's done. They're gone, and she's used so much power, she's dead. And then Ben comes back after being completely pretty much dismantled by the Emperor. But he comes back, and with what little power he has, he uses it to heal Rey. So now Rey coming back, before this, just to kind of go back a little bit, I thought was cool, is she always thought she was alone. So when she's sitting there and she needs to muster up the strength to defeat the Emperor, she starts hearing all of the voices of the different Jedi, and you get everybody. You even get Hayden Christensen as Anakin talking to her. And say what you will, but that's pretty cool. That's a cool callback. So, and they're all saying, like, you have the power of the Jedi in you. And we're always there for you. You're never alone. So, I thought that was really sweet, really cool. And she gets up, defeats, like I said. But when Ben comes back, he heals her. The sheer kiss, I didn't think it was needed, but whatever. It, fangirl services, are met. Because I know that's been like a big thing for a lot of people on the internet with memes and such. So, whatever, I can let go. So you get her, so she's healed, Ben dies, and he disappears like Luke did and like Obi-Wan did, and he is now one with the Force on the light side. Rey winds up getting in the X-Wing, taking off, meeting up with everybody. And then you get a cool, like Return of the Jedi, you get all these Star Destroyers that were kind of, or First Order Star Destroyers, I should say, that were in different parts of the galaxy. So we see Bespin, and that Star Destroyer is destroyed. Then we get to Endor, and you see the Star Destroyer you see Wicket with, I'm guessing, his wife, looking on, older Wicket, looking on as his Star Destroyer gets destroyed. I thought that was an awesome callback. We got to see Wicket. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Tatooine. We got some really cool stuff. So then we get, they're all celebrating back at base, doing their thing. Rey leaves. She goes to Tatooine. She buries their lightsabers, Luke and Leia's lightsabers, right out front of Uncle Owen's farm. So, and then there's a woman passing by. She goes, "Nobody's been here in so long. Who are you?" And she goes, "Rey Skywalker." And like she sees Luke and Leia off in the distance, looking on like proudly. And I thought that was cool. And then she looks at the sons of Tatooine, very reminiscent of Luke, and roll credits. Directed by J.J. Abrams. Now, a couple things I didn't like just before I get into my overall is they kind of relegated Rose to like the background. She had a more prominent role in the Resistance, but it was just kind of like she was barely seen. Like, she showed up every once in a while, and it was just kind of be like, oh yeah, she's still here. And I thought she deserved better than that. I mean, they really added her in into The Last Jedi, and I thought she did just fine. So I'm not saying she had to go on the adventure. I'm glad they gave her a more prominent role. But I don't know. I just felt like she deserved more than what she got. So that's just how I felt about that. With that, there isn't much else I didn't like. Just little holes here and there that I don't really feel like complaining about. Because honestly, that drives me nuts. So with that, I will say this. I walked out of the movie feeling satisfied. Now, to kind of give you a little bit of background, I thought The Force Awakens was fine. It was familiar, and I really liked it, and it was a great comeback to the saga. And it was a great setup for Rey, which I didn't like what they did with that setup in the sequel. But having watched The Last Jedi again before this one earlier, I was like, there's kind of like, I think Palpatine was planned, because that was, there's some things that allude to Palpatine and being related to Palpatine, and it's very, very thin. But now that I know it, I'm like, I could call back to that and be like, okay, that makes a little more sense, or I can connect that a little bit better. But I thought they should probably did it a little bit better. Overall, though, I was a guy who really liked The Last Jedi. Now, with that being said, I walked out of this movie, Rise of Skywalker, feeling fulfilled, feeling good, feeling optimistic. I got a good movie. It was not a perfect movie, But when you go back, none of the Star Wars movies are perfect. And I'm happy with what I saw. Could some things been fixed? Yes, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I don't feel like that's the best thing for this. I think when it comes to Star Wars, be optimistic. It's an optimistic show. And, if I wanted a pessimistic view, there's plenty of other shows or movies that I can go and watch. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having a pessimistic view when you come out of a movie, if that's what the movie calls for. But Star Wars has always been an optimistic saga to me, and that's what I walked out with. So my review for this is a positive one. I liked the ending. I liked where it came from. It gave me a resolution to the saga that I wanted. And now I can go on and see where they go from here without touching down on these characters anymore. So with that being said, out of 5, I give it a 4. 4 stars out of 5. That's my review. I hope you guys liked the movie. If you didn't, please let me know what you thought. Let me know why you didn't like the movie. Let me know how your feelings were when you walked out. I like to hear other people's opinions. I want to learn from it, and who knows, maybe I'll change my mind, maybe I won't, but I can always agree to disagree. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Give me a like and subscribe on the video and the channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Scene Snob. Go over to the Facebook page and give me a like. The Scene Snobs. TheSceneSnobs.com is where all the podcasts are, all the videos, everything is kind of all together. So, with that being said, may the Force be with you. And until next time, have a good night, everybody.